I believe at the moment you're bombing 8 countries, the Americans or the USA is, and that's just what we know of. I think it's 7 or 8. Most Americans don't even know that, do they?
Oh no, people didn't know that there are U.S. troops in Syria, for example, and nobody in the and that all started with Obama. That's Obama's war. Nobody said anything. So it's something nobody was people weren't aware of. I don't think most Americans know that the Iraqi parliament voted for the U.S. to get the hell out of their country once and for all. A couple
We're
years
going
ago,
there for democracy, Margaret. We went in there to plant the seed of democracy. I remember George Bush telling, "There's a seed of democracy, and they've got a parliament now, and they've got democracy, and they voted to make America leave." And America's response, I can't believe this, but was a letter from Pompeo that said, "We're a force for good." That's what they said, and that was their excuse. 117-0. They said, get out of our country, this democratic country. And America said no. And obviously we're in there as well. We just had a medic die in Iraq. I mean, why are we still in Iraq 20 years later? Can anybody explain this?
well, the word's imperialism. And that's people sneer and when you say things like that, but that's what it is. And so the U.S. and NATO, the other NATO partners, are committed to staying in these countries. But it's something that gets very little attention in the media. You have people, even as I said, like Sanders, who are maybe on the left on domestic policies, who cave and give in. So the most people don't even know that the United States has a policy of killing people in Iran and Venezuela and other countries that are sanctioned. I mean, that's all it is. There's no other way to describe it. But even members of Congress are, I don't know if they pretend ignorance or they really are. A couple of years ago, some soldiers were killed in Africa, in Niger, and their members of Congress were like, I didn't know we had troops in Niger.
Yeah,
There are American bases all over Africa.
I think
And
there's
Trump wants to bring them home, but the Democrats are opposed to it. So the duopoly is pro-imperialism.
Yeah, I heard somebody say, I don't know how true this is, but I heard somebody say of all the countries in Africa, there's only 2 countries that America hasn't got troops in or hasn't got some sort of influence in, and that's Africa. I mean, the average person on the street in America wouldn't have a clue that this is happening, because if you listen to the media, it's not.
Yeah, it's that's the U.S. Africa Command. It's called AFRICOM. Unbeknownst to most people on the planet, the U.S. military has divvied up the world into there's a Southcom and a CENTCOM. And
Margaret, you're honestly, I've down here, right? I'm sorry to cut you off, but honestly, the next thing on my little list here. This is why I think you're every time you go to say something. Whenever I've heard you something, I thought that's exactly what. Because right down here, I've got the scariest picture I have seen since I've started doing this and really opened my eyes in the last 4 years, is that picture of the world with AFRICOM and CENTCOM and all that. That's the scariest picture, because I look at that and I think, what kind of construct does that and looks at the world in military agendas? It's a Nazi Hydra. That's what looks at the world in that angle, isn't it? It's scary.
Yeah, it's fascist. It's so funny. When Trump started running and everybody started screaming, he's a fascist, and I'm not saying he is not, but we had it before. He just, he does not bother to smooth out the rough edges or anything, but he's not brought us, I'm not going to say there aren't any differences, but we had imperialism, which is one of the signature elements of fascism, even before he came in. And so we have a ruling class that is determined not to have that change. That's why they want to spy on us. That's why they have to destroy Bernie Sanders. Even a little bit of liberalish reforms are not going to be allowed.
Increased censorship.
Yes, censorship, no health care, the so-called gig economy. All of these things are meant for us. It's the race to the bottom. And we are supposed to accept living at the bottom while simultaneously believing we're the greatest country in the world. Americans always say that. It makes me crazy. I hate it. But yeah, that's what we have. It is a hydra-headed beast. And there's a term I'm blanking on, full spectrum dominance. That's what I was. And that's what they're trying to achieve. And that's why they have to keep Julian Assange in jail. It's why they do so many things. They are terrified that we will in any way oppose what they do.